All right, welcome back to the Future Proof Leader podcast. I'm Charlsie Baldwin. I'm here with my partner, Jessica Rapach. We co founded Twin Legacy Solutions to help founders and small businesses automate their pipeline, elevate their leadership, and future proof their teams. Today, we have Veronica Poulsen with us to talk about leading people through the AI revolution. Veronica and I actually worked together in the Marine Corps, and ever since, we've gone our separate ways, but we're back here together. We both went into the corporate world, and here we are. That Marine Corps partnership never ends. So welcome, Veronica. We're really excited to have you here. Why don't we start off? Just kind of tell us about yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And it is very excited to reconnect on this. So as you mentioned, we reconnected, we worked together in the Marine Corps. I retired after 20 years of service and moved into HR, talent development, talent management. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years.
That's awesome. And thank you for your service. 20 years, that's very impressive. That's very hard to do. So thank you for your sacrifice there. So, looking back at your own journey, can you share a specific time when a mentor or a leader invested deeply in your development? And why has that experience stayed with you so vividly? It can either be from your military experience or your corporate experience.
Yeah, right out of getting out of the Marine Corps, I joined an organization and had a leader that within the first few months, initially, I was partnering on projects. So I was just kind of assisting and running data and data analysis. And we as a team had a really short deadline to kind of rebuild and rebrand our talent ecosystem. So how do we support the executive leaders a little bit better? And my mentor gave me, and she was also my manager, she gave me a stretch assignment to design a tool to help the team provide that better support with a short timeline. And it was a great opportunity to showcase the skills that I had learned in the Marine Corps and really translate that into this corporate environment. I was one of the newest members on the team. And she really challenged me to think outside the box and kind of have a clean blank canvas of if this were a perfect world, what would you want to do and build it? And so the work became something beyond behind the scenes work. I got the opportunity to train my peers on this, to brief the executive leaders within our HR department. And she really put me out in front. And so all those things rolled into one. There was growth, there was advocacy, there was a balance of independence and support. And it's really kind of helped me continue forward in the organization and know that I've got trust in my leaders, which is daunting coming from the Marine Corps into corporate to know that you have that almost immediately. And so it's really sat with me and I continue to hold that near.
Yeah, the phrase stretch assignment, I know sometimes can be a dirty word, but I actually love stretch assignments. I think that as a leader, it's a great way to, like you said, give people opportunities to do something that's not in their normal, 9 to 5 job description. And it gives that leader a chance to really grow and step out of their comfort zone. So I'm a huge fan of stretch assignments as long as they serve a purpose and you help coach them along the way. That's a great example. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just add to that piece. I think there has to be clarity and specification on what that stretch assignment is trying to develop someone into specific skills, specific visibility. Absolutely agree.
And Veronica, so you're in the HR realm, so you probably deal with a lot of personal development across your sections. How should modern corporations redesign their internal systems to ensure they're intentionally training their people? Just like you got the stretch assignment, what can they be doing to make sure that they're setting up their team members and leaders and managers for success?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with communication, right? And being very transparent about what that journey can look like. And I want to put an exclamation point on what it can look like, because the second part of that is being able to iterate and shift. If something's not working, we have to be okay with that as leaders, and especially executive leaders. Sometimes it's about the right role for someone, and it's not, the journey that they had that got them there. What are the aspirations of the individual? What does the organization need? And how do we blend those together? And really developing that individual alongside the technology that is within the organization. I'm a firm believer in a hybrid workforce, right? We have us as humans and then augmented by the technology. And I think it's really important for executive leaders to start incorporating that in their day-to-day conversations when they're developing their talent. what does it look like? What are the projects we can give you? And what are the tools that are available to you to do it?
Yeah, you said if something's not working, executive leaders need to see that, identify it, and be willing to change. And I keep saying the theme of this year is pivot, right? Like companies need to be willing to pivot, leaders need to be willing to pivot because of technology, because of AI. And if you don't, it's really going to be a problem. It's going to continue to compound and really set you behind personally and professionally. So leaders often fear that AI is going to dehumanize the workplace. How can they overcome that fear of change and lead from the front on that?
Yeah, I think first is to acknowledge that feeling, right? Don't run away from it. Acknowledge it and then kind of think about how do we reframe that fear into growth. And I think I think back to the internet and cell phones, and they were once a very scary place where some people just got it and it clicked and they figured it out, and others were like, I'm never going to get a cell phone, or I'm never going to use that internet. And here we use Google for everything.
Yeah.
And so incorporating technology in your day to day, first as an executive leader, and then empowering your team to find opportunities as well, I think is the first step. Personally, I use ChatGPT, Google Gemini in my everyday life. They're on my phone. And so now that we're starting to get these tools in our organization, it's not scary, right? Because there's a lot that can go into it, but it's less daunting because it's something that I'm doing every single day. Planning a trip to Europe, right? ChatGPT built my itinerary. So when I go to work and we have these tools in my professional environment, acknowledging with leaders that just getting your teams comfortable using it, I think is the first step.
Yeah.
So I would say the first step is to acknowledge that feeling, encourage the teams to use it in their day-to-day and professional lives. And then secondly, tactically start small. Start using the apps. As a team, talk about where you can use technology alongside tasks you're already doing. I wouldn't say you necessarily for leaders to recreate opportunities. They're there. It's finding them, being transparent about the conversations, pairing up with someone who feels really comfortable with it, and then letting them kind of guide others. I think that partnership is very, very powerful and can allow teams to be a lot more efficient very quickly.
So when I talk to leaders and managers, there's always a split, right? There's CEOs that are like, you know what, AI, no, I'm not interested in it. It's not, it's like, it reminds me of exactly what you said, the internet, the iPhone. People were just like, you don't need an iPhone. Now it's, if you don't have an iPhone, you need it for life right now. Internet, same thing. I think about my grandfather. He's in his 90s, is like, I'm too old to learn the internet. But the amount of things we have to do for my grandfather because he can't adapt to that new function, it's kind of hindrance, right? So how are the leaders in your current HR role? Do you feel that they're really honing in on leading from the front with AI and making sure that we're not stressing the point everyone gets so worried that it's replacing people? But I love how you talk about how people are learning the tools to use it as leverage to do your job and your tasks. There's a very human piece in this world that needs to stay. AI is just kind of an outlet we can use as a resource, not a replacement. So you said to start small, and I love that for leaders. How do you feel in your current environment? How are leaders leveraging support for this AI revolution?
I'd say organizationally, we're there. We're in the journey. We're producing. We're supporting external entities, and we're really on that journey. Internally, from an HR perspective, we are identifying the need, and now we're starting to get more comfortable. And the senior leaders, I feel, are leading by example in identifying ways that we can incorporate. They're brainstorming, they're bringing people in as thought partners who feel more comfortable with the tools. And as someone who really advocates for that hybrid workplace, I'm very excited about that because I want to be in those rooms, right? I want to be in those conversations, helping the executives kind of better understand how we can get everybody on board. Because just naturally within organizations, and I'll speak for a lot of the organizations, it's split. There are people who are really comfortable and others who are just like, kind of like your grandfather, I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
And so being a thought partner with executive leaders on how do we add more
Fear.
But there's very much there's a risk here, right? So the
Yeah.
risk to not adapting is high. So it's scary, right? Everything that change is not welcomed in any environment. We've seen that in the military. We have to work with what we have. But that change is kind of scary. But what is the risk of not doing it? I guess is the big question. What are you risking here?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I think the risk is becoming obsolete,
Yeah.
similar to the internet and the cell phone. There are things I think in the future, I don't know if it's the near future or not, I won't try to predict, but I think in the future, organizations will be left behind. They will become obsolete. If they're getting looking for contracts and they're competing against other organizations, they're probably not going to get picked, right? They're going to be on the playground wondering, why am I the last person standing? And it's because this is what's driving the way we're living now. It's not just professionally, it's in our personal lives now. And so I think that's the risk as an organization. And then if we bring that back to, executive leaders leading those organizations, retention becomes an issue because you're going to have individuals who really want to be on board, that want to be a part of the journey. And if you're the organization that's like, we're not going to jump on board, you're going to lose your top talent and they're going to go somewhere else. And then unfortunately, again, it leads into becoming obsolete.
I'm glad you said that because that's actually one of the things we really focus on and are focused on this year is helping those execs retain their talent and recruit and bring in more talent. And if you aren't showing that you have an AI roadmap, an AI plan within your organization, people aren't going to want to come there because they're going to go to the competitor next door where they feel like they're innovative and they're more likely to survive the AI revolution because they're making those changes. That's a really, really key point is retention and talent recruitment and what you do to not just retain them and get them in the door, but once they're there, how do you keep training them when AI changes daily, right? It is evolving so rapidly that you can't just do once a year training on AI, just like we do with some of our other HR training, right? You do it once a year, you check the box. You really can't do that with AI because it's evolving at such a rapid rate. So I'm really glad you brought that point up because we couldn't agree with you more on that. And the large organizations, which we all come from, right? That's our background for all of us here, not just military, but you see at the larger organizations, they have the funds, they have the teams, they have the big HR, team that can drive this and the leaders who can champion it essentially. But those small and medium-sized businesses really need to get on board or the giants are just going to crush them, right? They need to find ways that within their means, within the team size, their budgets that they have, obviously they're not going to be able to compete at that level, but there's still so many affordable things that they can be doing at their level. So, and like you said, even personally, you planned a trip to Europe. I want to go with you, first of all.
That's great.
When is the trip? But you can, if you just start using it in your personal day to day, you will naturally find ways to implement it in your business as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Well, Veronica, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. It's really great to see you again. Again, thank you for your 20 years of service. And I love seeing your journey. And I'm sure that where you're working today, they're very lucky to have you there with your leadership experience. And thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And it was great catching up today.